So namaste, welcome to Satsang this morning. So just as an update, a follow on from last week's Satsang at the same time, we are continuing to read from the Empowerment Courses Handbook, which is a combination of 3 courses, mini courses. And this last one that we're reading, that we'll finish today, is the Abundance, Manifestation and Desire course. And as was evident last week, and what's happened during this week since I read from this course last week, there's been, for myself, there was a massive misunderstanding of desire and suppression of desire. And there's been getting lots of comments and feedback that there's been an opening up to desire this week that's been happening for everyone. There is this paradox that while we have desires, we must honor them, we must work with them, we can use them, and even the desire to wake up is a desire. But paradoxically, there isn't any desire at all in the fully awakened state, because there is nothing else other than you to desire. So if you're comfortable with that paradox, if you're feeling desire, feel it, and that's really the message of this course. Work with it, and when it's done its job, it will leave. So we'll continue to read from lesson 3 and 4 today and finish this this course. Okay. So just as a recap before we start, it is this course is, I really wrote this course because abundance is not just some new agey thing that we're trying to manifest or make happen. Abundance is not being able to run out of anything at all, ever. So patience, time, energy, money, peace, all the things that we regularly run out of as a human being, experience lack of. And the whole idea behind this course was really to show you that if abundance is manifesting everywhere in your life, if you're no longer running out of anything ever, then your awakening is fully matured in your life, is deeply being allowed to saturate your entire experience. And that abundance can be allowed because of that, rather than trying to get something. We might not be particularly interested in having lots of money or a relationship, but if we're experiencing lack somewhere in our life, then that is where we haven't allowed our awakening to really permeate our life. So in that way, abundance can really be looked at as something that is a reflection of your own awakening, deepening, and to not have it showing up is evidence that it's not being allowed to fully permeate our egoic sense of self and dissolve it. So if we look at abundance from that perspective, then it really should be the evidence of our awakening blossoming. So we're going to read from lesson 3 now, which is called Learning to Allow. In lesson 1, we began to understand that something is going to manifest and that there cannot be a void in our reality. Next, we learned that it is our desire that is shaping and molding what shows up in physical form. In this lesson, we're going to look at how to allow what you want to come to you. Each time we desire something, it is given to us, but we must learn how to hold the right vibration long enough for it to make it all the way through to the manifestation level of physical reality. So we somehow all have this idea that we should be able to do this inherently. And for myself, it really wasn't like that. I really had to learn this process. So hopefully it'll be helpful to go through it. At first, everything that could manifest is present as potential only. It is a possibility in the unmanifest self that we are, and is not actually anything as yet. As we experience something that we do not want, or something that is unsatisfactory about our life, our manifestation process begins in the form of a desire. Desire is really a thought that says, I want or I don't want. And as we continue to hold this idea of what we want, we gather more like-minded thoughts around it. The next stage of our manifestation process is an emotional manifestation. This is in the form of an emotional feeling about what we want. Emotions are slower and lower vibrations than thoughts. And so we could say that our desire is condensing down from pure potential that has no vibration. So the unmanifest is not vibrating, to a thought form which is vibrating very fast, and now onto an emotional feeling which is felt inside us. So if we were to slow down, cool down the air in this room that I'm sitting in, it would begin to, it's invisible now, that water vapor in this room, but it's here, and it would start to condense and slow down and become liquid, and it becomes visible. This is really the kind of thing that's happening with our manifestation process. The slowing down of a frequency makes it more and more visible, tangible, real, to our senses at least. But it is already here, as we learned in lesson 2 and lesson 1. Next is the physical manifestation, as the thing we have wanted appears in some form in our experience. If we have been in an allowing vibration, we will see the thing becoming physically manifest in our experience, and we will feel positive emotions. These positive emotions are vibrations being felt, and they will condense even more into a physical object if we allow that to occur. We'll take a look at the 3 main reasons now why we do not get what we want every time. So reason number 1 is we don't believe that we can get it. Reason number 2, we have a negative belief about the thing that we want, about ourselves or anything else, and as such we feel negative emotions and cannot allow it to physically manifest. What will manifest is more of what we don't want. So if I'm asking for a better job, or a better boss or something like that, but deep down I'm holding still this idea, experiencing this idea that I'm not good enough, I don't deserve success and happiness, then what we have to get is more of the same job, more of the same boss, more of the same thing that we don't want. Cannot possibly get something that's going to bring us a good feeling if we are vibrating and feeling emotionally that we just don't deserve that happiness. Reason number 3, we've got into a habit of noticing what we don't want and keep perpetuating that cycle unintentionally. These reasons make us feel negative emotions when we think about what we want. A negative emotion means we are vibrating on a frequency that is too slow and too low to allow the thing that we want to materialize. A positive emotion means we are vibrating on a level that is allowing this condensing process to occur. So right now, if you think about anything that you want, whether it's awakening or more money or more peace, anything at all, how you feel about that when you think about it is showing you what you're doing with this emotional manifestation stage, how you're allowing that or not. If there's a negative emotion, then we're going to be manifesting more of what we don't want. We're stuck on focusing on what we don't want. And we can begin to work with the beliefs that are causing those negative emotions through contemplation. Our manifest nature is always vibrating, and we know that our thoughts, feelings, and every atom of our body is also vibrating. To allow something to manifest in the way that we want physically, we must ensure that we maintain a similar vibration to how we feel when we think about what it would be like to have it already. If we can slow things right down and look at what happens when we get something we want, we'll see that we begin to feel good or to feel better than we did before. If we look even more closely, we will see that the I want feeling makes us feel bad emotionally because we believe we do not have it as yet. When the thing that we want shows up in a physical form in our life, the feeling I want goes away and is replaced by I have. This is why we begin to feel better. So if I don't have enough time to do everything I need and I'm feeling stressed, then if we're using this as this example here, the moment my schedule gets cleared, I've got more time, I'm going to feel better. I've got a sense of this I want more time has disappeared because it's actually shown up. So if we can flip that on its head, and I'm not talking about the new agey thing, feel the way you feel when it comes, feel the gratitude before it arrives, because for most of us that doesn't work if you've got these unconscious beliefs in place. What I'm talking about is to realize it's already here in some form, either in thought form of desire, emotional form of the feeling that comes with it. And then what we will be vibrating is the sense I have rather than I want. It is here, just hasn't made it into physical form yet. And we're fine-tuning our sculpting of this process, how we're handling it. In lesson 2, we looked at why we wanted the things we want. And we saw that in many cases, we want them because we want to feel good, or we want to feel better than we do right now. If we can look intelligently at this process, we'll see that most of us are doing this backwards. We want something because we think it will make us feel good when we get it, but because we don't feel we have it yet, we are feeling bad and not allowing it. A major leap in our level of consciousness comes when we begin to see it must already be here in some form. Once you can no longer believe the thought, I don't have it yet, then you'll begin to find it very hard to feel negative emotions about it, and it will show up in a physical way then as quick as possible. Once we realize that what we want is already here on a thought level and an emotional level, we'll begin to feel good much more often. By the laws of creation, it must then come in a physical form too. We must be mature enough to know that it is already present and disbelieve any idea that it is not. Maybe we can say, that it's not here physically right now, rather than it's not here at all, or it's not here in the way I would like it to show up. That's a softer energy. You can begin to ask the intelligent questions such as, in what way is it already here? Or on what level have I been disallowing it? We must begin to see the evidence that we are feeling better and better about what we want each day as our measure of success. As humans, we are taught only to value what we want once it shows up for us in a physical way, and to disregard completely the emotional and mental aspect of the manifestation process. If we can begin to value improving our emotional state as evidence of our success, then we will allow everything to come in physical form too. So completely disregarding this stage in the middle, they are not stages really, they're like the rainbow. The red could be the thought form, the desire, the orange of the rainbow could be the emotional manifestation, and the yellow, the physical manifestation, and onwards. And you cannot have any one of those colours without the other. But if we're completely trying to ignore one level and saying it's not important how I feel about it, then it can never continue its condensation down into something physical that we can see with our senses, perceive with our senses. When we judge our success by whether or not it has shown up physically yet, we are bound to continue to perpetuate the cycle of not getting what we want. When we can begin to see emotional success and a feeling of well-being as a precursor for the physical manifestation, we'll be able to allow the process to come to fruition. So what's the best way to feel good all the time is to be what you actually are, to be authentic in this moment. And in that moment, you are not disallowing anything. Everything is being allowed in your authenticity, your peace, even if there's fear as well, even if there is some guilt as well, unworthiness. Your predominant vibration in that moment when you're being authentic is peace, allowing, non-conflict, and you'll feel good no matter what else is coming up as well. Specific and non-specific desires. When we begin to see and accept that everything we desire is desired because we believe it will make us feel better once we receive it, we can begin to turn the process around and work in a much smarter way. Instead of asking for a specific thing, we can begin to ask for an emotional state or a spiritual realization. In doing so, our desires become less specific and we receive what we want much faster, and there'll be much less resistance to the process. When we ask for a feeling or emotional state, as our required outcome, we will receive this much faster, and also a host of physical manifestations that help us to feel the way we want to feel. A more general desire is much more easily identified and allowed than waiting for one specific physical object to help us feel the way we want for a short time. We'll now look at a few examples of specific desires and turn them into more general desires that we can manifest more easily. Example 1 is, I want a better job so I can get more money. I want to pay off my debts, but I don't have the spare money right now. I get frustrated that I can't make it happen faster. So these are real life examples of people that I was working with when I wrote this particular book. So this is a very specific desire at the moment, but if we were to ask why this person wants what they want, we might find the following desire is really underneath all of this and is much more general. Why do I want this? Well, I want to have financial freedom, the ability to do what I want, when I want, and not have to work all the time. So we can see that the real desire underneath wanting a better job is a desire for financial freedom. Again, we can ask why this person wants that. And the answer is, I want financial freedom because I don't want any worries. I want to feel free and be spontaneous whenever I want. I don't want to be limited. So we can see the root of all this is the desire for feeling free and unlimited. If we can focus our attention on only that, we'll find life giving us all kinds of physical ways that make us feel that way. When we insist on a desire being specific, we are limiting the universe to how it can come and saying it must only be through this one avenue and no other way. So if I'm wanting a better job to make me feel better, safer, and more free, because I think it's going to give me more money, more time, then that's a very specific way. If instead I'm wanting to feel free, to feel unlimited, then that's going to come in the form of awakening financially, more time, better relationships, where I've got more free time to do what I want, less limits in every possible way it can show up. So it's just learning to work a little bit smarter with these desires. We can distill this desire down to its more general nature by realizing that what the person actually wants is to feel loved, valued, and respected. Sorry, I've missed out example 2, which I'll read first. I want a better relationship. My current partner doesn't treat me with respect and isn't romantic. I want to meet someone new who is nicer. We can distill down this desire to its more general nature by realizing that what the person actually wants is to feel loved, valued, and respected. When we keep our desire at this general level, we will find all kinds of things begin to happen to make us feel this way, including, but not limited to, a romantic relationship. Spiritual transcendence of desire. We can manifest our desire much faster if we can begin to see that our desires are morphing into a sense that we already have what we want. We'll find that the sense I want or I need is noticed as it arises, and then we'll be able to define it more generally to help speed the manifestation process. Ultimately, what will allow your desire to manifest in the easiest and fastest way is to acknowledge your I want feeling totally, but then to let it transcend this level to become a feeling of all I already have. So very simply put, if a desire arises inside you for anything at all, feel it absolutely, allow it completely, no matter how it makes you feel in that moment. If there's some negative beliefs blocking it, may make you feel a negative way at first. Feel the desire completely, and it will go back into peace. It will disappear in that moment. And then you've done your part in that process with the desire. We can know from lesson 1 that it must already be here on a thought level, and that we already have what we desire as a thought form. We can further transcend now by noticing with our more general desires, we are allowing it to be here already on an emotional level too. So we can feel it's true when we say, I already have it on 2 of the 3 levels, and I'm excited to see how it shows up physically. I want to state again clearly that there is nothing wrong with having desires. I am simply stating that to allow the desire to turn into a feeling of already having what we want is the fastest way to allow what we want to materialize. Simply put, the more we feel good emotionally, the easier it is to allow things to come to us that make us feel even better. This is a much easier process than insisting that one particular physical thing, such as a job or a relationship, makes us feel good, because if it does not appear for us, then we will feel bad. This will keep us in a negative feedback loop of seeing what we don't want, feeling bad about it, and therefore getting more of what we don't want. The better way is to desire to feel good, and then as we do, we will see the physical evidence of that showing up for us, which will allow us to feel even better. We will be in a positive feedback loop of the better I feel, the better it gets. I need is realized to be I want, then I want becomes I already have, and then ultimately I am. So we'll move on to lesson 4. So from lesson 3, hopefully you can see that if you have a desire, there is nothing wrong with that at all. But to look at that desire, look at how it makes you feel when you hold it in your consciousness. If there's a negative emotion, there is some belief behind it getting in the way of it showing up in physical form. Until we deal with that negative belief, that belief that's blocking it, it's got to keep showing up as the opposite of what we want, or some hybrid between the desire and the negative emotion. So if I want a better relationship romantically and I don't feel I'm good enough to deserve that, to receive that, I've got to keep experiencing failure in this area of my relationship. So hopefully that's become clearer. Look at what you do want instead. Maybe intimacy, connection, love, to be valued, to be accepted for who you are. And see if you can find that from inside your own self. And then that feeling of I want will disappear, and you'll be vibrating I have or I am. And it's got to show up in lots of ways then physically, rather than insisting that it just comes this one way. And until it arrives this one way physically, I won't feel good. Hopefully you can see that we've had it backwards. Everything in this course, as everything I teach, is coming from my own direct experience. And I can really tell you it's much easier to do it the other way around, to work with the general desire of what you want to feel, and then let life fill in the blanks of all the ways it can show up physically for you. The last lesson is letting go of resistance. Again, very much from my own personal experience. In this last lesson of the course, we'll look at the reasons why we do not always allow what we want to come to us. The manifestation process has been described before, but we'll remind ourselves of it now to help it be better understood. Our consciousness learns by receiving new information several times until it becomes familiar, at which point it is absorbed and acted upon. The manifestation process is as follows. And I want you to remember, hopefully, that all these are happening at the same time. It can be a very instantaneous process when we understand it. There doesn't need to be a long time delay. Number 1, at first, there is only the infinite and manifest field of potentialities, which is also known as you, the self. 2, then due to a contrast between what we do want and what we experience, so we experience what we don't want. A desire is born as a thought form, I want, or I don't want, which is also a desire to get rid of something. 3, next the desire gathers momentum, attracting similar frequency thoughts. Number 4, the desire manifests on the emotional level, and we feel good when we think about it. Or if we feel negative emotion, we're going to get more of what we don't want. 5, finally, if we can hold an emotionally good feeling long enough, the desire will manifest on a physical level, either as a thing we wanted or something that will make us feel just as good or better. So it's important to recognize you may not get the exact thing that you want when in this process that you were looking for, but it has to be something that's at least as good, or, which is much more usual, absolutely better, something that you could never dream of that makes you feel the way that you're feeling. What's the best way to allow the manifestation process emotionally is to be in your own peace. You cannot be in conflict, feeling peace at the same time. It's just not possible. So what is the reason it sometimes takes a lot longer than we want it to? And why do we sometimes feel negative emotion about what we want? The reason for the way we feel is that we have resistance to what we want and to the process of our evolution. What is resistance and why do we have it? It's one of those general terms, but it really just serves us to take a look at what it actually is to help to understand. All of us have some beliefs that lie deep within our own consciousness that have been there through many lifetimes and are the cause of our challenges and negative karma. We are also programmed with beliefs by the adults that took care of us as infants. Of course, the adults did not have any choice and didn't do this on purpose. Most of us have no choice but to pass along these beliefs to those around us and our own children. The programming is also added to by social peer groups, the media, and many forms of advertising, political agendas, and more. As we grow and pick up these beliefs about ourselves, we have no skills with which to investigate if they are true or not. So I'm talking things, I constantly remember as a child, money doesn't grow on trees, life isn't fair, you get what you pay for, and not just from my parents, but from everywhere it was coming, because that was the vibration I was having inside. I'm not safe, and it showed up that way. Also, I'm not good enough. So it had to keep on being proved to me this way, financially as well as others. Also, as children, we do not usually even feel it's right to question these beliefs if they have come from a trusted authority figure. Beliefs such as I'm not good enough or I'm not safe are so painful to us that we bury them deep down under layers of thoughts so that we do not even remember that they're there. In our innocence, we have no choice but to accept these beliefs as our consciousness takes on any information that we receive on faith and that is correct. Simply put, it doesn't even occur to us that it might not be true. Once we have accepted these beliefs to be true, we must then find evidence that they are true by manifesting more of what we do not want. Of course, none of us are doing this consciously. This is all happening without our understanding. By the time we try to consciously use the process and to manifest what we do want, we may have had many years of proving to ourselves unconsciously that we are in fact not good enough to have what we want and that we do not deserve to be happy. This may sound quite extreme, but every person has some amount of this programming. Whilst this programming remains mostly unconscious to us, we are unable to look at the beliefs and re-examine them to see if they are actually true. So if I don't know that I deeply believe I don't feel good enough, how can I question it? It'll only be showing up in my experiences, it'll be showing up in my emotions. It'll be so well believed by me that I won't be thinking it up here anymore. It'll be under my conscious radar. I won't have this idea that I'm not good enough. It'll just be shown to me again and again and again in lots of different ways, from life proving to me what I'm sure is true, but not conscious of. Our mind assumes again and again that these beliefs are true. Until we can bring them into our conscious awareness, we will be trapped in a cycle, bound to repeat the same pattern over and over. We must consciously choose to look at this programming from our new place of maturity with an easy to work through process. In this lesson, we'll learn how to expose these beliefs and move beyond their effect once and for all. Whilst we do not know we have the belief within us, we have no choice but to keep believing it on a very deep level. Once we see it consciously, we can realize it's not true and move beyond it. Only then can we get what we want. So if we are denying our desire inside, then we're not going to be able to see what these beliefs are underneath, because it's only when we feel a desire and it comes with some negative emotion that we can know there's something blocking us. Or if there's something in our life that's not working and it's the same thing showing up again and again and again, maybe with different people, but same pattern, then we can see there must be something in the way of this manifestation process, something that is watering down what comes into physical form and shaping what we experience. So if we're not allowing our desires at all, then how are we going to know when there is something in the way? So feeling desire is really a fundamental thing that's going to start this whole process shifting back to the right way. The process of releasing resistance. We may not be conscious of which beliefs are operating within us, but we can allow our emotions to let us know when they are operating. If we can learn to pay attention to how we feel emotionally, then we can see when a belief is operating and sabotaging our ability to manifest our desires. The first thing to do when we feel a negative emotion is to soften any resistance to looking at the emotion and what we may be causing, what it may be causing. We are all programmed to want to avoid looking at things that make us feel bad, but once we are conscious of this, we can move beyond it. We feel a negative emotion because we are believing some negative thoughts but are not conscious of what they are. We can invite the emotion to tell us what the belief is, and by wanting to see it. We feel negative emotions during manifestation process usually because we do not feel that we can have what we want, but as yet are not aware of that. First, we must bring awareness to the thoughts that are causing the emotion and not allowing manifestation to show up as what we want. We do this by being willing to see it and sustaining our attention on it long enough for it to be transcended. So I want something and I feel bad, I feel unworthiness, guilt, then you can hopefully see that that is a feeling that I don't deserve to get what I want. Or if I want something, but I feel fear when I think about it, it's that I don't feel safe and I don't believe that I am safe. So I cannot get something that's going to give me greater peace and disagree with this feeling that I'm not safe. We do not have to do anything to transcend a negative belief. It will go on its own once we see it and accept fully that it's there. Bringing it into the light of our conscious attention is enough. The reason that we don't do this very often as human beings is because we believe that to look at these ideas we have about ourselves will be overwhelmingly painful and difficult, and it will leave us feeling broken and lost. In fact, the reverse is true, and the more we look at a negative belief in a safe way, the more empowered we will feel. We'll finally be able to transcend the belief and not be at the effect of it. So I'm going to leave that chapter there. There are some specific examples how to work with desires and to bring up resistance. And I'm going to go to the conclusion at the end. As I'm reading this, if anybody would like to ask a question or to share about this process, this subject, or anything to do with satsang in general, feel free to click on participants and to click raise hand. It'll let me know that you want to ask a question. Hopefully you can see that allowing desire is the way to begin to move forward, no matter how it feels. And we all have desires. Even desire to wake up is a desire. Desire for enlightenment is a desire. So it serves us to really know how to handle them when they arise in our experience. For my own self, I was completely at war with my own desires, and most of them I was so busy pretending I didn't even want. So I had to really unravel this process inside myself to begin to transcend them. So the conclusion, this is for all of the 3 courses. Each of these courses will change your life for better, but studying them all in the order they're presented here has the power to put you beyond suffering once and for all. The tools and the knowledge you have learned here will help you for the rest of your life. Some of these tools may not be easy to use at first and may take some work to get used to them. Each day is an opportunity to get better at using them. It's normal that everyone will have some resistance to doing certain aspects of these courses, and you may feel more challenged in some areas than others. So just to recognize that these courses are written for a reason, that we all have the same challenges, the same desires, the same painful emotions attached to our own desires. Our own transcendence is going to be a work in progress, and there is never an end to this process, but we won't be suffering from it. We won't be in conflict with our own self. If I am arising, if I am appearing as a desire, and yet I'm constantly trying to squash this desire, then I'm trying to get rid of myself in my own energy. And that is why it really hurts to suppress desire. Just hopefully these whole courses are offered to smooth this process. All of us, as one final note, in my own pathway, I was trying to be what I thought was awake and trying to be what I thought was spiritual. And that was by having no desires, because that is the ultimate state. But we have to honor where we are now. And if we have desires, we need to work with them and allow them to be released. And just pretending that they're not there, or that the whole desire and manifestation is irrelevant to the unmanifest, it is not going to help us, because the manifestation and the unmanifest are one. So if we're not working with the manifestation process, not understanding how it works, then we're also going to be resisting what we actually are too. So hopefully these courses have helped you to understand a little bit more. Okay, so we'll go to Ron whenever you're ready.
Yeah, good morning, Helen. Thank you.
Good morning, how are you?
Excellent, thanks. So one of the things that I guess from the space I've been coming from is this whole idea of I want is really a subtle or not so subtle declaration is that I need. And when you get to I need, it means I don't have. Which it's an inverse declaration that I'm lacking something.
Yeah.
So I'm actually reinforcing the fact that I can lack. Yeah. And therefore it works against this whole process. So that's, you've got that on one side, and the other side is, or another aspect to that is, I really, I believe I've got the infinite capacity to deceive myself too. And I really don't know what's good for me. So if I, me trying to determine what it is that I really want or need is kind of directing that process, which, okay, yeah, I might be able to get there, but that's going to be a really long path. Be careful what you wish for, because you may get it. And as opposed to just being open to what shows up without much direction at all. So it's kind of, two different questions there is I want, or I really I need kind of maybe I've been thinking about it wrong all these years, is that being, I've always felt that to be almost like a negative.
Yeah, it's if we hold the sense I want really tightly personally, then we're actually stating, as you said, I don't have it, which isn't ultimately true, because it's already here in thought form,
right, and
some emotional manifestation, whether it's positive or negative. So even on that level, it's not true. But on the level of, not that it is a level, but of what you really are, you can't be missing out on anything, because you're infinite. There's nothing to want. That's why desire eventually disappears. And if you, to the first part of your question, if you can recognize it's here in some form, it's here on a manifest potential, it's also showing up in a thought form, which is manifest, and some emotion, then it helps you to soften the I want or the I need feeling when it's chronic enough, when it's really being believed. And you can start to see the loop between I don't have it and it's showing up as the opposite. It is showing up physically, but it's showing up as the opposite. It's showing up as more of what we don't want. So if you start to see that cycle on whichever area of our life that we're working on, and then we can less and less believe that I don't have it yet, because we can see the manifestation in process, that we've just been something a little funky on the emotional level, and it shows up as what we don't want. But the ultimate understanding, as you said, is that I can't be separate to anything. There isn't anything for me to want. If we can honor that where it's obvious in our life, and also if there is the feeling I want or I need, then we can honor that and work with it and allow it to come back to this, that, you know, back to the peace where you don't feel separate from what you want. You realize it's also another way you can show up. The second part of your question, just remind me of the second part again.
Sure, that I'm kind of the ego side of me is kind of directing things, and ends up being kind of a more circuitous and maybe not
Right. Yeah.
so direct path.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's the same for me, and I had this understanding that I've tried to put into what I was reading, that instead of trying to figure out what I want, I can be clear that actually I do want to feel good. I want to feel peaceful. I want to feel undisturbed. I want to feel unlimited. And I realized those were, I could know for certain that those were, I didn't really know that I actually wanted more money, because if I get the feeling of security or the feeling of intimacy from a romantic relationship, if I could have that already, I don't know whether I'd still want the actual physical thing or not. Maybe I do, maybe I don't. So by going to how we think it will make us feel, we can know that that's what we actually want. And in essence, the end of all desire is that I want to feel undivided. I want to feel not separate from anything, as we were just saying. We can know with absolute conviction that's what we want. That is very true. And it's a much more direct way to work with desire while it's there, and to feel certain about what we want, and then allow that to show up physically in whichever way life is going to surprise us and delight us in that way. So we, you know, switching over from I want this thing to make me feel better from ego's perspective, we can go, well, what do I really want actually? And why do I want this thing? What is it going to give me that I don't think I have right now? And it really comes down to some feeling or state. That's what we're really after, isn't it? And that's, for me, it was a much more direct, but also much more effortless way. If I'm being myself, I'm going to feel the way I want to feel. You know, when I get these things anyway, and then they're much more able to show up. But they're only going to then agree with how I'm already feeling, rather than saying to these situations in my life, you must make me feel this way. You know, that's kind of a switching over of what do I really want? Why do I want it? And is it true it's not here already? You know, which we can experience feeling unlimited, undivided through our own self-inquiry, through our own practice. And just paying attention to where we're not feeling that way is going to bring the emotional manifestation level into alignment much more. Does that help?
I think what I think I heard you say then is, you know, through when you have the emotional feeling, through further investigation, one of the things you may discover, it's already here. It's like, you know, the person dying of thirst that's standing knee deep in the water. You know, I'm already here, but I'm just not. I'm not allowing myself to see it. So in some cases, there's no need for a physical manifestation. It's already there. I think is what I heard you say. In some cases, and then maybe what I'm hearing you say in all this, which I think is very, very interesting, and I get it, is that the you know, fully divine, fully human, working with ourselves where we're at, it's natural to have desires, and if we don't really honor that we're doing a kind of bypass that you can't bypass. You know, you have to really, that's kind of this is our opening to going through it, as opposed to around it and then having it come back up, because then it's just kind of getting packed in there.
Yeah,
Great.
definitely.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
It's one of those where there is what we really want is to feel good, and if we realize what we are, we'll realize we are standing neck deep in that, you know. And then ego, recognizing ego works on physical level. It's looking at physical things. It can't perceive the subtle levels of our being. So the only way it can translate desire is into, I want this physical thing. And that is valid too, as you said, but to recognize that there are much more subtle levels I can get that on, and that's available right now in this moment. And just putting the horse before the cart, then my outer manifestation, my physical world, will have to reflect how I already feel in my own peace, my own bliss. What I really want is to feel good. That's what we all want, to feel loved, to feel safe, to feel peaceful, all of that. And that's available in this moment. And then just not to make ego wrong when it wants certain things, because it cannot perceive that that is how it really works. It can only come, ego's trying to get what we want from the outside in, but it's just turning that process around in its subtlety, and then it's much easier to work with then. And you're much more able to see where you're not allowing that process to shift. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good. Vidya?
Namaste, Helen.
Hiya, how are you doing?
I think,
Namaste.
yeah, good. I think you just answered it anyway, because it's sort of seeing that, reminding myself from this new way of seeing is that it is all myself. So the question around this was, if you've got when you've got a partner, which is really yourself, and I want something new, I could use my conditioning, you know, how I was brought up, and if something's a certain age or it's got a crack, you should replace it, get something new, or just because I can. You know, I see something and I think, oh, it's an upgrade. So
I'm not going there. I'm going to leave that one alone. If we're talking about relationships here, I'm just going to sidestep that.
Yeah, and then people tell me when they live on their own, oh, I can just get whatever I want. But it's very different if you have the apparent other saying, well, we don't really need one yet, or there's nothing wrong with it. So it's a very paradoxical way of everything is yourself. So my question was, is it just reflecting, if I was on my own, would I get it anyway? So this is what you were saying before. Would I really want it? Would I care, or would I still feel, oh no, I better not spend the money? Or is the apparent other just reflecting what you would feel anyway?
Yes to both.
She wants a refund.
No.
It's you know, you come into a relationship, which is obviously the one being, but you both come with your own desires and your own limiting beliefs to manifesting those desires, and it kind of becomes this joint thing that builds between you, the things that you would like from your life together, you know, which if they're close in alignment, that can be a wonderful process. If they're not, there can be some working through of those, let's just say. But I think the wonderful thing about a relationship like that is that there is a capacity for so much more expansion than there is on our own. We're all doing this anyway, whether it's in a romantic relationship or in a friendship, or you know, as a parent, or whichever way it's coming. So yes to both. Yes, you'd have it anyway, but yes, it's kind of amplified by the seeming other person in the relationship, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and looking at what do I really want it? Is it to make me feel good? Is it, yeah.
Sorry.
Thanks, Helen.
I'm really trying to be sensible today, and Saboteur's not helping much, but go on. Sorry.
That's okay.
So that my first question would be is, yeah, really looking at it and saying, what will it give me? And yeah, do I really need it and why? And then
mine says, you know, if you
just feel
question
good
why you
about
want
it.
something, you're not going to get it. Mine says, don't question why you want it, because then it won't show up physically, and you'll only be stuck with the nice feeling. But you know, and mine says, but I really want this car, or I really want this nice house, or I really want this thing, you know. And so if you say, well, why do I want it, and can I work on a more direct level with this? And I want it because it's going to make me feel a certain way, and can I feel that way now? And if I do, then I'm going to get the thing I'm wanting physically, and a whole other set of, you know, things that are going to agree with that. And like, I had to literally turn this around from I want this thing to make me feel better, to really make an effort to feel better. And I'm not talking about the you know, the law of attraction, okay, I'm going to sit here and visualize and feel grateful, because that just made me feel even worse. You know, it really made me think it's not here right now, you know. So can I feel peaceful in whichever way? Can I feel a bit better in whichever way? And to notice where I'm really disagreeing with the fact, you know, emotionally. And then it has to show up at least in that way that you've been asking physically, but usually in all the ways that are going to make you agree, you're going to agree with how you feel. So it'll be at least, you know, and eventually you turn this around, you're kind of just constantly living in the physical catch-up process of everything agreeing with how you feel now, rather than most of us are living the other way, aren't we? You know, I'm constantly experiencing the result of my feeling bad, my negative beliefs, and you can turn that around if you get ahead of the emotional level of this. What do I really want it for? Because it will make me feel fill in the blank, you know. That's what we absolutely want, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think maybe there is a bit of an old pattern there that you know, I can't have what I want, or I've got to wait, or you know, just so that could be playing out as well.
It absolutely played out for me for at least 10 years with Enlightenment. I cannot have what I want, and yet I really wanted it. So this is why it's coming from my experience. This book, this we can never wake up with that belief in place. It's just, you know, whatever it is we want, from the most mundane thing to the most mystical thing, it's just not going to happen. Have to keep feeling disturbed with that kind of belief in place. Okay, well, why do I feel that way? Why do I? It's really only because my experience keeps telling me that. My experience is coming from that belief, a result of that belief, rather than the other way around. Then you're back in charge again.
So to material things, to emotional things, to mental things, it's all the same, is it?
Yep, you cannot have a desire without some emotional aspect corresponding it, and you cannot have the desire and the emotional aspect without something physical showing up at the same time. So mine says the thoughts cause the emotions, which cause the physical manifestation. But in reality, they're all the same one thing showing up at the same time. You know, from your understanding of causality that we've worked with in the course, mine says this causes that. It's absolutely not that way. There's always some physical manifestation that's already happened as a result of what we think and deeply believe. Cannot be, to say that one causes the other would be like saying the heads on one side of the coin causes the tails. They cannot be one without the other, because they're the same one. You always get unmanifest self, manifest thought form, emotional form, physical form, all of them together. You cannot have any one of them absent. You really start to get that, then the whole process gets a lot easier. Okay, which link in the chain am I really not allowing? Am I really believing I'm a separate person and not recognizing the unmanifest? Am I really squashing my desires and not recognizing the thought form? Am I really squashing my emotions and you know, squashing that level? Or am I really focused on what I don't want that keeps showing up and blocking it on the physical level? just to recognize those four are always going to be present, that we must be missing one link in the chain. That's probably a much longer answer than you wanted, sorry. But
No, that's good. I can have a good look at that.
good.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome, thank you. Lovely. Maggie, is it?
Hi. Mine's not about my husband at all. So.
Oh.
I keep getting asked to do a thing on relationships, and I'm like, yeah.
I just wanted to share really. When I actually did that course with you, there was a lot of resistance to what you said. It was funny listening to it again and remembering how it felt, because I very much couldn't understand how, if the thing wasn't here, and there were many of them, that even just the emotion of not having it or them, and the sense of it may appear sometime, just really didn't fit for me at the time. I worked on it a heck of a lot, and I really enjoyed doing the course. And I know I've already mentioned this before, but my list is very non-existent now. Everything manifested. There were some things that I wanted that dropped away, and it wasn't that I gave up on it. I recognised that I didn't really want them.
So there's a list of physical things you wanted, most of which have arrived. The ones that dropped away are because you realised you didn't really want them anyway. You wanted the way they would make you feel.
Yeah.
And now you're feeling the way you wanted to feel then.
Yes.
Right.
Very good, very good. The other thing I just want to say is, do you want to explain how to ask a question? A hand flashed up on somebody's screen, and it might be in error, but I don't know whether they were wanting to ask a question or they don't know how to raise hand.
Okay. I thought I had, but I'll just.
I don't know whether.
Okay. I can see Sophie is waiting, but if anybody else wants to ask, click on participants at the bottom of the screen, and click on raise hand. Is it? I can't see it from this end, so it's a little.
It's at the bottom of the participants list.
Right. Okay. Bottom of the participants list. Thank you.
Yeah. I think Ian wants to ask something.
Yeah, sure.
Hi.
Hiya.
I was going to ask. I still think I find it quite difficult to really acknowledge desires in a way. I feel it quite like, because you tell us to go part of the course, Dissolving the Ego course, because you go to all these ways of checking in to the silence, to the stillness, being here, all those kind of things. And you do that, and there is absolutely no desires when you.
Yeah.
There's absolutely no desires. And I've heard that one definition of enlightenment is knowing where your true identity is. And then you can kind of you can realize everything else. You can have a bit of, not fun with it, but you can acknowledge that it's not really true and not really real. But if you keep checking into that, for want of a better word, it's not checking in, it's you, isn't it? The more you go there, you are effortless, you're here, you're unchanging, and you don't have any desires. So in a roundabout way, you're kind of saying that, I'm rambling a bit, but
you're doing really well, actually. It's really it's a common area where there's a lot of questions and challenges.
So what you're saying, really, the idea of enlightenment isn't, if you get stuck there, if you think that's enlightenment, just
the unmanifest.
Just the unmanifest. Then you're missing something, aren't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because yes, there is only the unmanifest self, but it is also appearing as you, your life, your wishes, your dreams, your goals, your relationships, your pathway, your enlightenment. And yes, it doesn't want anything, and there isn't anything it's separate to want, but it's also appearing as you that wants. You know, it's also appearing as manifestation. So to just go, well, none of this is real, you know, it's only an appearance. Yes, but it's not real in terms of a physical reality, but it's real in terms of it is the self. It must be honored for the fullest realization, for the fullest simplest experience of reality. It must be honored as this also too. All of this is God. This is, you know, my desire, my fear, my all of it is what makes me as a human being, is also that appearing this way. Whatever that is in this moment must be honored. And it's a walking, talking paradox. Like, I don't want anything at all, ever, never could, never have. Yet this morning, toaster blew up, want a new toaster, you know. It's just going, life is going to move that way. If I go to buy something from a store and the person serving me is quite rude, there's going to be desire in that moment. I'd like to be treated better. You can't not, you know, unless you walk around with your eyes and ears closed, and even then you'll still have a desire, you know, probably not to bump into things, but there'll be a desire. See, it's got to be honored, hasn't it? It's got to be. If we're going, you know, at first we have to say, I'm not this form, I'm not these desires, I'm not all of that. Then it has to finally be, like we were saying last Thursday, Satsang, it's got to be taken back in as this is also the self appearing as all of this. Not actually all of this, but the self appearing as all of this. So can you just be okay with the fact that you do have desires and you also never have desired anything? Both of those are equally true.
Yeah, I mean, I think like a lot of people are probably like knocked a lot of desires or hidden them away because I feel I'm not going to get them.
Yeah. Because it's the essence of being a limited, finite being. I'll experience being limited, not getting what I want, not having what I need. You know, that's the essence of being limited, and we've all had a lot of experience of that, haven't we? To back that up.
As a child, there was one thing that I really, really wanted to be and to do, and I didn't get it, and it didn't happen. And I think almost in that one thing has really like knocked everything out. I just said, like, I'm not going to get what I really, really want. Sounds like a song.
What you just said right there, I'm not going to get what I really want, was the cause of that experience, not the other way around. So when we recognize this, or that they are the same thing in the truest, the experience and that belief have to be present together. Our experience is constantly showing us what we believe. And so we have to realize that's how it's working, rather than ego says, I feel this way because it keeps happening to me. But it's the other way around. And we can come to see that there isn't really any further reason for us to continue feeling bad. We were completely in control. In a way, we can begin to turn the process around in whichever areas in our life it's really working backwards for us.
Yeah. Because in most areas of my life now, everything is going really well. It's just But I still, if I really look, well, what do I really want? I kind of go,
I just notice when you feel what you want, when there's a sense I want something, if it comes with any negative emotion at all, it's just a little hint that there's something, belief underneath there that's going, yeah, but, you know, when you tried to get this thing before, you remember what happened. And when you tried to feel what you want before, you remember how painful it was. And it's just to see that is no longer a valid reason for not desiring what you desire now. Desire is vibration, and vibration is the unmanifest self. So we have to allow desire, because it is the unmanifest, pure awareness showing up as a desire.
Yeah.
and someone who's wanting it. Does that help?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
That was
Thanks.
very useful for everyone, hopefully.
Thank you.
Thank you. Lovely. Sophie?
Hello.
Hiya, how are you doing?
I'm okay. Well, I'm okay. I actually had a bee sting on my head. So it's very, very sensitive.
Oh, gosh.
Sorry, hang on, I'm having a bit of a fit. I think because what I want to share. Yeah, it's to do with coming to peace, really, with what's happened in your life, without dwelling in the past, but coming to a sense of just peace and understanding as to how things unfolded as they did. And in my path, I consciously really chose to deny a lot of my personal desires for an idea of serving something that I was really committed to, which actually caused a lot of, some ways, suffering to myself. And yet I had this kind of image of that it was for my own good, really, like I was doing some kind of karmic work or some kind of endeavor to and it did. I mean, it did. I cared for my grandmother for 10 years. I did do good with that, but in the process of that, I utterly denied any of my own other desires that might have been there, or I was harboring desires that would never manifest as well. So it was kind of both. And and in order to somehow acknowledge that and put that into a kind of, because having desires can create a lot of restless, it can create a lot of suffering, because I know the process you just described helps to come to it with contemplation.
I'd just like to jump in there. Having desire itself is never painful. Never it's going to disturb us. It's only if we're not allowing that desire in that moment to be felt that we will suffer. I just have to be clear on that point, because we all know, remember perhaps from childhood, feeling that we want something. I mean, remember, Christmas Eve feeling. There's an absolute desire to get to Christmas morning and a total feeling of excitement. And that's how desire can naturally feel all the time when it's not being affected by these, not allowing it for whatever reason. So I just had to jump in and say that. Sorry, carry on.
No, I mean, that's why I'm sort of sharing, is because I want to put it into a kind of an understanding or a contemplative peace, really, so that there's a sense of, well, because there's that sense of what happens in your life happens, that it often happens not the way the ego wants, and maybe that's a great blessing.
Absolutely, it was for me, because if I'd have gotten what I wanted, I would not be sat here in peace. I would not be in. I think it might help to recontextualize it, that I may not have, and obviously from what you're describing and stuff, I may not have got what I wanted on the level that I wanted it then, but I ultimately did get what I wanted as the self. As the self, I wanted to experience what it feels like to be limited, to be finite, to be separate to everything else. If there is a reason for all of this, separation and ego, you could say the self wants to try to perceive itself, to understand what it's like to be someone. What is it like to be a limited, finite human being? And I absolutely got that in fullness. I got to experience that. and then to come to see, actually, I don't want to experience that anymore. I want to experience the fullness of my being, but only from that sense of limitation, only from that sense of this, I cannot get what I want, as we were saying before, or I don't deserve what I want, or whatever belief we're believing. Can the desire be born then to be free of limitation? You know, that is the essence of enlightenment, really, isn't it? To be free of all limitations on our being. So you can maybe recontextualize. You had a really good understanding of what it feels like to limit desire, and now you can begin to experience the opposite of that. You know, what if the moment you wanted something, you felt real excitement because you knew it was going to show up? You know, just like that Christmas Eve feeling. And that's how it is for me now all the time. After a lot of turning it round and consistent work that I've been describing in these courses, but I can see that I wouldn't be sat here today without that experience of limitation. It's not wrong. It's not something that we didn't have to go. We absolutely had to go through it until we don't. Can you get a sense of that? You wouldn't be in the satsang right now, or in any satsang, if you hadn't gone through that, would you?
No. I mean, it was satsang that put me in there in the first place. You know, and it's yeah. Yeah. So, and it was a love of something higher, or a perception of that enabled me to deny my own desires, although that there wasn't a. That's why I'm coming to it in a new way through relating here now with you, because there was just a kind of processing the pain of it, rather than coming to just, and maybe the understanding is just what you're saying, that it's enabled the maturity to ultimately transcend desires, or to work with desires in a more realized way, you know.
And maybe your realization is deepening now that it must also include you. You know, serving others, serving the self, being selfless must also include you, not absent. You know, to serve everyone else except ourselves is not the fullest realization. It's often used as a way to unconsciously avoid looking at our own stuff. You know, I've seen that a lot of times. It's self-negating in a way, you know, and maybe that's the fullest blessing from this, is that you can no longer deny what you want, you know, and that's a beautiful thing happening. And
that forgiveness of that part that has denied, in a way, that has created that, you know, maybe very necessary, but
just understanding it couldn't have been any other way than it was, because until we've had enough of experiencing what we don't want, we won't feel motivated to change that. And the reasons that we keep putting up with what we don't want, those reasons that go the longest, is because we are serving some higher purpose usually, or serving someone or something that we really believe in. And nothing's gone wrong there, but it has to deepen into an understanding that is also right here. My mind, my body, my life too, also, you know, in the fullness of everything, to fully allow that to blossom. Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, Megan.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Helen. Hi, and that was beautiful interaction with Sophie. Sophie actually put me on to you.
Lovely to meet you.
So to see. I don't have a picture of you tonight for some reason, but I think it's just me.
Can you see me now? Can you?
No, yeah, I don't know why. It doesn't matter.
Well, hopefully you can hear me okay, at least.
I can hear you, yeah.
Oh, good, good.
So I've really been enjoying, I'm in Australia, so I've been mostly looking at the recordings, going through the recordings. But yeah, so I'm wondering about so you're talking about, what I heard was talking about noticing the resistance in terms of emotion, any feelings that arise when you have a desire. And I'm wondering about the physical discomfort. So I'm have a desire to be healthy and harmonious and well. And the physical discomfort that I'm experiencing really gets in the way of feeling good. So I'm wondering about the process of sitting with the physical discomfort, but where's the balance? Because my focus can really go into the physical discomfort then, and then I'm pulled into that. Yeah, so I guess I'm a little bit confused.
It's very, very common.
Just let me know if you...
Yeah. So you can allow how you feel physically, but I think what you're asking is how to work with this process, how to not get distracted from the desire manifesting. Are you asking why is the desire not manifesting? Where is it stuck or something?
Yeah, and there's a fear that I'm not going to get well, because it's been 3.5 months.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So if you can look at the desire is to feel good, you said, right? To feel better or to feel good.
Yeah, to feel well and harmonious within the physical self.
So let me ask you then, what would that give you emotionally? Let's say that happened right now. Can you still hear me okay, yeah?
Yeah, happiness.
So if you were physically how you wanted to be, how would you feel right now if that was already manifesting?
Joyful.
Maybe free. And it's something you can do with a pen and paper. If you had what you wanted right now physically, the health, the well-being, the vibrancy that you're looking for, what would you feel emotionally that you're not feeling now? And you'll get a list of things, like you just said, happiness, joy, and then you can work with those emotional states and ask, is it really true I don't already feel that way, or I can't feel that way? The mind will say, this is crazy, of course you don't feel that way right now. But if we're stuck in a loop of feeling bad physically and wanting to feel better physically so we feel better emotionally, but the desire is moving from emotional to physical, then we have to sort out the emotional level first. We can't do anything about the physical level directly. Of course, look after the body and, do whatever you need to do, but let's sort out the emotional level here. So if you write down, with a pen and paper and a cup of tea, what would physical healing, what would it give me that I don't feel I already have? And is it true that those aren't here already, aren't possible already? Can you get a sense of it? Can you hear us okay?
Yes.
Okay, good, good.
I've just, yeah, okay. Lost it for a little bit. That, yeah, no, I've got the sense of that, and so the list has kind of started in the mind.
Yeah.
But I can already feel uncertainty about what I'm going to do with the energy jumping in. So like that's already come in, like what uncertainty around the direction that I'll go in once I have the health. So I guess I would also work with that, like both.
It's two sides to any desire. When we're not allowing it, when it's not manifesting, it's usually because, like we've already spoken about, that it will make me feel a certain way, and I'm convinced I can't feel that way without this thing happening. But also you may find, like for my own self, I had a chronic lack of finances, and I used that against myself, so I didn't have to deal with things that I would have to deal with when I had the finances. So what will be allowed to happen when I have healing physically that I don't want to look at somewhere inside myself is another good place to explore. You know, what is this blocking from happening that I don't want to happen as well? The other side of that coin as well. We can explore that and look, you know.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm getting all like other people's demands of me will jump straight in. So thank you. That's kind of opening up now.
Good, good. There's always kind of two reasons, you know. If I have what I want, this thing will happen, and then I might have to, you know, fill in the blank. And the other side of it is I can't have it because I don't feel the way I want to feel, you know. So if you just look at those two things, what are the emotions that what you really want, even more than the physical healing, is actually to feel the way you want to feel. And can you feel that way now? Is it really true that I have to be suffering even though my body is? You know, that's the real area to look at. And then the other side of that is, and what happens when this does heal? What will it bring up for me then? And can I resolve that now inside myself so that there's nothing then blocking this manifestation physically? Good, good, very good. Lovely.
Beautiful. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Lovely to meet you. Okay.
You too.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
So we will leave it there for today. Oops. Okay. So that it concludes. There's only one more book, which is the Story of I, which I'll be reading from. It's a very thin book, and it's not a cover-to-cover book per se. It's just it's an autobiography of the self, if you will, the stages that our sense of I goes through, right from even before we have a body, right through to the final realization process. So thank you for joining me today, and for all those that shared today. It was wonderful, brave sharing again. And I will see you Thursday evening at 7 p.m. UK time. Thank you. Namaste.
Namaste. Love you.